Hubby, if you hear any gossip that your dad and I are having an affair, don't believe it. This is what my wife said to me when I just got home and had sex with her while she was snuggling in my arms. I was stunned and paused for a moment to smoke the cigarette in my hand. Set up. What did you say? I was a little bit unbelieving. Oh, nothing. My wife Sophia continued to snuggle in my arms and pounded my chest. I continued smoking, and the smoke made my vision a little blurry. Sophia's words just now have been lingering in my mind. My family is not well off, and there aren't many good job opportunities around here. A few years ago, I went to a big city in a neighboring province to look for job opportunities. I have done all kinds of dirty and tiring work. When I think of my beautiful wife, lovely children and parents at home, I feel full of energy. Finally, with my efforts, I have saved some money in the past 2 years and found an opportunity. Earned the first pot of gold. But my ambitions went far beyond that. I didn't tell my family about the money I made. Instead, I used the first pot of gold to start a business. Now the business is getting bigger and bigger. My first pot of gold has long since turned into dozens of pots, and I have even started a small company. Now that I have finally achieved some success, I want to come back and bring my wife, children and parents to live in a big city. My family members know that I make money, but they don't know that I make so much money. My original intention was to give them a surprise. I just got home yesterday. Seeing his beautiful wife whom he hadn't seen for a long time, he was also very hungry. But after it was over, my wife suddenly said this to me. This caused some doubts in my mind. This time when I came back, my mother's illness was seriously ill and she was bedridden all day. Even when I came back, she acted like she didn't know me. She just lay in bed every day, and my wife Sophia took care of her every day. I said I wanted to take my mother to a hospital in a big city for treatment. But my dad said, "Your mom's illness has been going on for a long time. No matter which hospital you go to, it can't cure her." My mother used to have diabetes, but she always controlled her diet, so she didn't have any serious problems. I didn't expect the relapse to be so severe this time. Although diabetes is difficult to cure, it will not be a big deal if it is treated in time. My mother's condition is very bad now. I started to get anxious too. Sophia advised me, "Husband, Mom has been ill for a long time. Maybe she will recover in 2 days. I take care of her by her bed every day. Are you still worried?" My dad nodded. Yes, thanks to Sophia, she has been taking care of us old couple when you are not at home. When my mother heard this, she seemed to react. Lying in bed was a bit of a struggle as well. I thought it was me who came back, and my mother just realized what was happening. She wanted to sit up happily, and I hurried to comfort her. I didn't notice Sophia next to me when I heard what my dad said. My face turned red all of a sudden. My mother still couldn't speak, and even if she was able to move, she only moved once or twice, and then fell asleep again. I want my mom to sleep peacefully. So I didn't bother. Prepare to walk out of the room and go back to your own room to take a good look at Sophia and the child. After making love, Sophia lay in my arms. I haven't seen her for a long time, and her skills have improved a lot. My child is 3 years old now. He was born when I just went out to work. I didn't expect that he has grown so big now. He doesn't cry or make a fuss at night. He's become more sensible and not that difficult to take care of. Sophia nestled in my arms and drew circles on my chest with her fingers. It makes me itchy. I was smoking a cigarette in bed, and at that moment I felt an indescribable satisfaction. Hubby, if you hear any gossip that your dad and I are having an affair, don't believe it. Sophia's face flushed, and she spoke in a soft voice in my arms. My hand that was smoking a cigarette paused. What did you say? Oh, nothing. Sophia's fingers, which were circling my chest, turned into fists and punched me lightly. It looks like she is acting coquettishly. I frowned. Clarify it, you and my dad. What's going on? I refused to give in and grabbed Sophia's wrist and pulled her up. Sophia was also a little impatient, or felt that she shouldn't say these things. But now that things have come to this, there is no reason not to continue. It's because you've been away for so long. There are so many gossipers in our family. Some people see me taking care of the kids by myself and think that there's something wrong between me and my dad, so they gossip about us. I'm afraid you might hear some bad rumors and misunderstand me, so I'm telling you in advance. That's all. Sophia rubbed her wrist, which was slightly red from being pulled by me, and rolled her eyes at me. The tone wasn't that good either. After hearing Sophia's explanation, I was skeptical. But she was right. My home is in a small county town, and almost all the neighbors are acquaintances. But people in small places like this know a lot of people, and the older ones always like to gossip. The daughter-in-law of this family ran away with someone, and the child of that family couldn't find a job after being admitted to university, etc. It is also normal. Sophia is pretty. When I married her, everyone said that I married a pretty wife, but it would be difficult to keep her under control, and she might run away with someone else in the future. But over the years she gave birth to a child for me, and took care of my parents without complaint. I also have great trust in her. In addition, in the past few years, I have been busy with work outside, and have not fulfilled my obligation as a husband to accompany her, so I feel a little indebted to her. If there was something wrong, she wouldn't tell me so directly. Being able to say it means nothing is wrong. Thinking in this way, I also dispelled the doubts in my heart. I hugged Sophia tightly and comforted her. It means you can do it again. I didn't tell my family that I had made money and started a company. I just said that I had made some money and wanted to bring my whole family to live in a big city when I came back. At first Sophia didn't believe it and thought I was bragging. It's only been 3 years, how much money can I make? I usually send money home. After paying for food and drink, how much can I save for myself in a month? Honey, how big is the house you rented? Is it big enough for our family of 5? Rented. Sophia thought I rented the house and came to pick them up. I laughed. Honey, don't worry, there will definitely be enough space for you to live in. It has 3 bedrooms and a living room. I thought Sophia would be happy to hear that she could move to a big city, but when she heard the news, she was not as happy as I thought, and her expression was extremely dull. Honey, I think it's good to live here. It's not easy for you to make money outside. The money you send home is enough for us to spend. Save more money, and when Zhuangxuan grows up and you buy a house, we'll move there. I was a little surprised. I was surprised that Sophia was such a good wife and mother. I felt deeply that I had married a good wife. When I heard Sophia's words, tears welled up in my eyes. I swore secretly in my heart. Be sure to treat her well. Just as I hugged Sophia tightly and wanted to get intimate with her, my dad suddenly opened the door. We were both stunned and quickly let go of each other's hands. My dad looked at us and coughed twice. The tone was a little unpleasant. Who will take care of the child? I've been calling for a long time, but you two are just hanging around in the room. What are you doing? After saying that, my dad rolled his eyes at Sophia. It's already noon, and you don't know how to cook. I'm not hungry, but isn't the one lying on the bed hungry? My dad's words reminded me of that, too. I quickly went to see my mother. My mother is still the same, lying in bed. Sophia and my father were not around, and I felt so heartbroken seeing my mother like this. I held my mother's hand tightly, hoping that she would get better soon. Just when I was heartbroken. Unexpectedly, my hand moved. I was startled and quickly looked at my mother. She was still in the same state, but her hands could move. Her hand slid across my palm, making it itchy, as if she wanted to write something. I cried with joy. My mother's health is showing signs of improvement, which makes me happiest. My mother's fingers trembled, as if she was trying to grab me. She wrote on the palm of my hand stroke by stroke. I calmed down from my initial excitement and felt the words my mother had drawn on the palm of my hand. The words I felt startled me. My heart was beating fast because of nervousness. Sophia. Your father. She wrote these 4 words. Hubby. It's time to eat. Mom is still sleeping, don't disturb her. Sophia's voice came, disrupting my thoughts. She pushed the door open, grabbed me, and pulled me out. That's right. You're already a grown-up, but you still need to be treated to meals by others. Your mother has been like that for a long time. Sophia will bring her food later. My dad scolded me at the dinner table. The moment Sophia opened the door, my mother's hand immediately retracted in fear. I didn't dare move again after that. Looking at the familiar food in front of me, I had no appetite at all. At this moment, my mood has sunk to freezing point. The last 2 words, my mother wrote on my hand. Kill me. Just put them together. Sophia, your dad, kill me. I had no appetite for this meal. I kept thinking about what my mother had just written on my hand. It reminded me of what Sophia said last night. Let the seeds of doubt in my heart take root and sprout. I have no taste for food. I couldn't help but pay attention to Sophia and my dad. At the dinner table, my father was still eating as usual. Sophia lowered her head and kept eating the food in front of her, seemingly not daring to look up. Normally, I wouldn't have thought there was anything wrong with it. But now I have doubts in my heart. Sophia's behavior seems particularly strange to me. She seemed afraid to look up at me, and my dad thought he just stared at the rice in his bowl. She ate little, and after finishing her meal she asked for some to give to her mother. I pretended to be calm, and nodded. She got up and went to the kitchen, intending to get some food for her mother. We live in a county town, and the house is self-built. The kitchen is in another location and requires a walk out. Seeing Sophia walk out, I put down my bowl and chopsticks to indicate that I was full. I told my dad I needed to go to the bathroom. Unexpectedly, when I said I wanted to go to the bathroom, my dad became nervous. Is that all you want to eat? Eat more, son. You finally came back, how can you not eat enough? As I was talking, my dad wanted to pick some food for me. I said I was full, and wanted to go to the toilet just now, and now I felt a little urgent. I held my stomach, my face full of pain. Maybe I ate too fast. I ran out quickly, and went straight to the toilet. On the way, I heard my father opening the door. It seemed that he wanted to see if I was going to the bathroom. He felt relieved only after seeing me go to the toilet. I saw my dad go in and quickly came out of the toilet. Head straight to the kitchen. When I came to the kitchen, I hid and saw Sophia serving rice. The rice and vegetables were piled in one bowl. It seems there is no problem. I saw her pick up the white powder and the seasoning, and pour a little into the rice. It's far away, I can't see clearly. After pouring it, Sophia stirred it with chopsticks, then pretended nothing had happened and planned to send it to her mother. I quickly hid myself. After she left, I went to the kitchen and tasted what she had poured into the bowl. It's sugar. My mother has diabetes, and cannot eat sweet things. But Sophia put so much sugar in my mom's meal. The amount she poured was too much for a diabetic, or even an ordinary person to handle. It's hard to imagine that my mother eats this kind of deadly sweet rice for every meal. I clenched my fist. No wonder my mother's illness has not been getting better. It's even more serious when she came back this time. When I think of the words my mother wrote on the palm of my hand, I roughly guessed it in my mind. I want to go in and throw a tantrum, and find out what the relationship between my dad and Sophia is. What have they done to my mother over the years? But I can't. Because no one will admit it. What's more, I don't have any definitive evidence yet. I can only bear it for now. The most urgent task is to stop my mother from eating that bowl of rice. I turned a corner and went back to the toilet, pretending to come out of it. Then I quickly went to my mother's room. When I entered, Sophia was about to stuff the food in her hand into my mother's mouth. Although my mother couldn't move, she was still conscious. She wanted to struggle, but she couldn't move. All she could move were her hands. I saw her fingers tightly grasping the bed sheet, and her lips tightly pursed. Sophia seemed to be used to it. She deftly pried open my mother's mouth with her hands, picked up a spoonful of rice and poured it into her mouth. Stop. I shouted loudly. Seeing this scene, my heart ached particularly. Sophia started at my voice. I almost dropped the spoon in my hand. But soon, she calmed down. What's wrong, husband? What did you feed, ma'am? I pointed at Sophia, my eyes gradually turning red. Rice. What else could it be? Bring the food here so I can taste it. I pointed at the bowl of rice in her hand. The look in his eyes was chilling. She seemed stunned for a moment, then laughed angrily. Here you go. I don't know why you're so nervous. Sophia handed the meal to me, naturally. Seeing how calm she was, I couldn't help but feel doubtful. I picked up the food in my hand and took a bite. Not sweet. Same as normal meals. I frowned and planned to take another bite. But it is normal. Sophia crossed her arms and looked at me speechlessly. How was it? Have you tasted it? I chewed the food slowly and passed the rice over slowly. Then why did you treat me like that just now? Is this how you usually feed me? Is this how you take care of me? I feel dissatisfied. I clearly saw her put sugar in it before. How come it's gone now? Sophia rolled her eyes at me. Mom can't move now, and can't eat either. If you don't open her mouth, do you expect the food to go into her stomach? It seems that what you said is not wrong. There is some truth to that. But this time when I returned home, I felt more and more strange. Everything in the house seemed to become strange. I told Sophia not to stay here, and I could feed my mother myself. She also wanted to persuade me. But I insisted. Seeing that she couldn't persuade me, she had to give up. I looked at my mother. My mother's eyes were just staring straight ahead, with some rice grains still on her lips. The bed sheet next to her was slightly wrinkled as she grabbed it. I held her hand tightly. Mom, I'm back. Tell me anything you want to say. I won't let anyone hurt you again. Behind the door behind me. A pair of eyes stared at me. And he heard everything I said just now. Suan is my son, and he is 3 years old this year. When he was just born, I had no choice but to go out to work to earn money to support the family. He was missing for 3 whole years. I don't want to leave him again this time when I come back, and I hope I can make it up to him in the future. That day, I took him out for a walk. Suan has a problem. He loves to be carried for a walk, or he loves to cry. I was walking on the road holding my son in my arms, and at this moment I was also filled with fatherly love. Suan can speak now. But he still won't call me dad. When I was walking on the street, some neighbors saw me and greeted me directly. Hey, Zio lies back. I nodded and walked over to talk to my neighbor. The neighbors came to see Suan. This child looks like you. Look, you two have the same eyes. I looked at Suan and felt happy. Grandma, you're lying. You said before that this little brother looks like that grandpa. At this time, the neighbor grandmother's grandson spoke in a baby voice. What he said also made my smile freeze on my face. Grandpa? Which grandpa? The neighbor grandmother quickly hit her grandson, thinking he was talking too much. Then he immediately smiled and said to me, look at this child. Grandpa is talking about your father, Lao Li. You haven't been home for quite a while, right? Your father always took this child out for a walk before, and we all saw him. Then tell me, isn't it normal for your son to look like your father? You also look like your father. It's all your Li family's genes. The neighbor grandma talked to me with a smile. I looked at Suan's face. It's fine if you don't say it, but now that you say it, I think so too. The more I look at him, the more he looks like my dad. I secretly kept Suan's hair and prepared to use it for a paternity test. At this moment, I no longer had the idea of taking Suan for a walk. I returned home with a gloomy face. Getting ready to go see mom. I'm worried that something might happen to my mom while I'm away for such a while. When I got home, Sophia and my dad were not there. I searched the house several times, but couldn't find it. My mother lay on the bed, her eyes staring straight ahead. This time she didn't reply to me, no matter what I said. My mother's condition is sometimes good and sometimes bad. When she is conscious, she can move her fingers, but when she is not conscious, she is like a vegetable. I was worried, so I decided to take my mother to the hospital. There was another thing going on this trip to the hospital. Just need to do a paternity test. Before leaving, I took advantage of the fact that they were not at home, put a mobile phone that I seldom used in a hidden place, and started recording. Then I hugged my mother and went straight to the hospital without telling my father and wife. The hospital is a little far from my home. My mother is very light, so light that I don't feel tired even when I carry her all the way. After arriving at the hospital, the examination results showed that he had diabetic renal failure, which had reached the late stage. Her urine protein level was already very high and her retina had begun to deteriorate. The doctor said that her eyesight now is almost the same as if she were blind. And he blamed me for sending him to the hospital only now. This disease cannot be cured, it's too late. When I heard it, my heart sank. When I left home 3 years ago, my mother was still in good health. Unexpectedly, when I came back again, my mother was already terminally ill. I asked the doctor why my mother was like a vegetable and couldn't move. The doctor's answer made me feel like I was entering an ice cellar. According to the examination results, your mother's body has been filled with a chronic poison for many years. This poison will not take effect at first, but over time, the person will become stupid and gradually become like a vegetable. Plus, your mother has diabetes and has a lot of sugar in her body. Her blood is now almost full of sugar, which has clogged her blood. I'm not asking you to be children. How can you treat an old lady like this? The doctor frowned in reproach. The more I listened, the angrier I got. The clenched fist seemed to dig into my palm. I dare not think about it. What on earth did my dad and Sophia do to my mom during the 3 years I was away? It's to kill my mother completely. My anger caused the doctor to look at me sideways. He asked me what was wrong and if I needed help. I said I didn't need it and thanked the doctor. My mother needs to be hospitalized now. I said that no matter how much it costs, I hope my mother can be saved. The doctor said he would try his best. But the situation is not very optimistic. After settling my mother down, I took Suan's hair to do a paternity test. The results of the appraisal showed that Suan and I did not reach the probability of 99.99%. I already understand it in my heart. Suan is really not my biological child anymore. It is now basically certain that Suan is the child of my father and Sophia. I smiled bitterly. It turns out that they had hooked up 3 years ago. I was still foolishly going out to work and earn money for this family. It is said that men don't shed tears easily, but they do when they are heartbroken. A string deep inside me. It seems broken. I remembered that I left a cell phone video before I left. I quickly got up and went home. It's getting a little dark now. Sophia and my dad should have gone home long ago. He should have noticed that my mom and I were not there. But I didn't get a call. When I got home, I felt exhausted both physically and mentally. No matter how tired I am physically, I am not as tired as I am mentally at this moment. I walked slowly into the house, with light steps. I heard my dad and Sophia talking, but I couldn't make it out clearly. I moved closer and could hear vaguely. What should we do, the two of us, his house? Talking incoherently, I simply pushed the door open, startling both Sophia and my dad. What's wrong? Are you so startled? I snorted and looked at the two people in front of me. Sophia quickly adjusted her expression and asked worriedly, when she saw me coming back, just now, my dad, and I came back and saw that you and mom were gone. We were just about to ask you where you and mom had gone. Where's mom? I thought to myself, how dare you mention mom? Seeing Sophia pretending to be worried made me feel sick inside. I feel like she's so fake now. It couldn't be more fake. I took mom to the hospital in town. After listening to this, Sophia looked at my dad. My dad coughed and scolded me. Didn't I tell you your mom is fine? How much will it cost to go to the hospital? Does your family have that much money? Besides, your mom's illness can't be cured. Why waste that money? I didn't dare to disobey my father before. But now, I see that my father is already in his 60s or 70s, and his temples are starting to turn gray. Unexpectedly. Still very strong. I sneered. You don't have to spend any money. I will pay for my mother's medical treatment myself. Whether my mother's illness can be cured or not, you don't have to spend a penny. When my dad heard this, he was unhappy. Isn't your money all your family's money? You and Sophia are married. Although you have sent back some of the money you earned outside in the past 2 years, isn't your money also Sophia's money? Isn't it also our family's money? There's absolutely no need to spend so much money on your mother's treatment. You might as well save the money for your son in the future. When I mention Zhuangxuan, I get even angrier. This old man actually said he wanted to keep it for my son. Keep it for his son. Anger burned in my heart. I really wanted to go up and give this old man a punch. But thinking of the video evidence, I gradually forced myself to calm down. Now I am the one who suffers the consequences of beating others. What's more, the person in front of me is my father. I let out a breath and prepared to go back to my room without paying any attention to it. Sophia saw my father and I arguing and wanted to mediate. She held my arm and comforted me. I slammed her hand away. Now when I see this face in front of me, I don't think it's pretty. I just think it's vicious. I feel sick when she touches me. I ignored them and went straight back to my room. I waited until late at night when everyone was asleep, then I quietly slipped out and retrieved my hidden phone. I go to the hospital every day to take care of my mother as usual. I really don't want to stay in this house any longer. I have to quickly look at the evidence I left behind. After arriving at the hospital and settling my mother down, I picked up the phone and watched yesterday's video. Shortly after I left with my mom, Sophia and my dad came back together. Both of them were dressed a little messy, and when they got home, Sophia even fiddled with her clothes to see if there was anything messy. When they returned to the house, they called me for a long time before they realized I was not there. They knew I was not at home. They actually started kissing as if no one was around. My dad put his arms around Sophia's waist, pulled her into his arms, and kissed her passionately. Sophia hooked her hands round my dad's neck like a spoiled child. After the kiss, there was still a little blush on her face. Finally left. I was so greedy these past few days. Came my dad's voice. Well, just bear with it for a while. He will go back to work after a while, so there will be only 2 of us left. Sophia said in a spoiled voice. HMPH, don't think I don't know what you two did the day he came back. I heard it all from outside the door. Ouch. You old fool, eavesdropping on people doing that kind of thing. So, who can do it, me or him? Of course it's you. It's you who's so impatient. You insisted on taking me out today. What if he finds out? Don't tell me. I think Joseph seems to have discovered something. I think we can no longer keep it secret from each other. At this point, my dad's expression changed. Thinking back to the past 2 days. If I hadn't changed your bowl of rice in time that day, wouldn't that kid have tasted it? When I saw him following you, I knew he was up to no good. Also, I heard him saying at the bedside of that dead old woman that he would not let anyone hurt her. It seems that this kid knows something. When Sophia heard this, a look of fear appeared on her face. What should I do then? I heard that he made some money outside. He said before that he would move our whole family to the city. It seems that he made a lot of money. HMPH. You make so much money outside, and you only send this little home. If you ask me, it's better to. Sophia didn't finish her words before she glanced at my dad's expression. I didn't dare to continue. As opposed to what? My dad spoke up. Why not make his money ours? Once that old woman dies, it will belong to our family of 3. When I saw this, my hands couldn't stop shaking. My wife and my father were secretly planning to swallow my money and kill my mother. I held onto the wall next to me to prevent myself from collapsing in anger. Unexpectedly, my dad pondered for a while. Opened his mouth. How do I do that? Sophia curled her lips and smiled, as if she already knew what my dad would say. I heard that he worked on a construction site. There were many people who died suddenly on construction sites. Maybe it can be considered a work-related injury, and we can get compensation. We will deal with him, the same way we dealt with the old woman before. I still have some of that medicine left. As long as you take it for 3 to 6 months, you will feel dizzy at first, and then your limbs will become numb. At last. You will become unable to move your entire body, and become a vegetable. If he suddenly felt unable to move while working, he would die unexpectedly. Then, won't everything he has become everything to us? Sophia said as she gently stroked my dad's chest with her fingers. There was a hint of temptation in his tone. My dad looked at her with a smile in his eyes. Just as you said. I don't need to say much about what happened next. They took advantage of me not being at home, and I can't bear to see it. He threw the phone in anger. My eyes were now bloodshot, and my whole body was shaking uncontrollably. I was breathing heavily. It seems that it is really possible to suffocate and die suddenly. I forced myself to calm down. Now I have irrefutable proof. This adulterous couple not only harmed me, but also my mother. I was kept in the dark for 3 years. I will never let them go like this. After I settled everything for my mother. So I started to implement my revenge plan. I pretended I knew nothing, and went back home, and continued to get along with them as before. They also inquired about me for a while and found that I was no different from usual. I said my mother was hospitalized recently, and I had to go to the hospital every day, so I might not be at home often. In fact, every time I go out, they both eat secretly at home. After I went out this time, I went straight to my neighbor's house. Since we neighbors all knew each other, I told everyone that I was going to the hospital to look after my mother. It was autumn harvest season soon, and I was afraid that my father couldn't handle it alone, so he asked him to visit my house more often to help. I also gave each of them some money, and said that we could go to my house together. When I came back. Just consider it as hard work paid. The neighbor was reluctant to take other people's money, so he immediately nodded in agreement. After all, we are all neighbors, so it is normal to help each other with some work. I also kept my video evidence and paternity test. Be prepared to call the police at any time to catch an adulterer. After completing the preparations, I pretended to go to the hospital as usual. After my dad and Sophia made sure I left, the two of them started hanging out together again. Just as the two were excited, they took off their clothes. Suddenly, a lot of people rushed in from outside the door. Loudly, "We are here to help your family with work. Where are you?" The neighbors didn't know when this group of people came. Shouting loudly outside the door. This scared my dad and Sophia so much that they immediately stood up and looked for clothes to wear. I didn't even give them a chance to put on their clothes and kicked the door open. I was followed by many neighbors. I asked you to come back with me to help. There were both men and women. My kick scared Sophia so much that she screamed. Both of them were naked, their naked bodies exposed to everyone. When the neighbors saw this scene between my dad and Sophia, they were stunned for a moment. I didn't expect that he came to my house to help, but I saw such a scene. Afterwards, many people around started pointing and talking. When my dad and Sophia saw so many people, they quickly looked for something to wrap themselves up. When I saw myself standing in the front. The two people's faces also looked particularly good. Husband, please listen to my explanation. Please listen to my explanation. Sophia wanted to crawl towards me, but she felt that she was not wearing any clothes, and it was difficult to move. He could only look at me with begging and fearful eyes. My dad turned his face completely away, and didn't look at anyone. He never turns around when anyone speaks. I went over and pulled off what was wrapped around Sophia, and Sophia was completely naked in front of everyone. Bang! I slapped Sophia hard. It seems that he is not satisfied. I hit her several times in a row, and Sophia's mouth was bleeding. My dad didn't dare to move or speak. He didn't even look at Sophia getting beaten. Sophia's face was swollen after I hit her, so I grabbed her and threw her to the ground. When the neighbors saw this, they pointed at her and scolded her. Oh, this bitch. She's having an affair with her own father-in-law. Isn't it? I'm telling you, I've noticed something's wrong with them, for a long time. That day, I saw them doing something in the cornfield over there. OTSKTSKTSK. I don't know what sin this old Lee family has committed. What a sin. Isn't his wife paralyzed in bed? She wasn't like this 2 years ago, but now she can't get up. I once saw these two people in front of the old woman. They were just angry. There is no more to say about the rest. Others also understood what he meant. Seeing that the truth was revealed, the two were caught in bed. There's no point saying anything now. My father refused to turn around and kept facing the wall. After I beat Sophia, I dragged her to the ground and kicked her. I kicked to her heart. She curled up in pain and couldn't stand up. But no one sympathized with her. She deserves it. I looked at my dad. This is a person who has raised me for more than 30 years. At this moment, it was as if I didn't know him. Why? I spoke. Almost yelled. Why do you do this? I grabbed my dad's shoulders and forced him to turn around and look at me. Sophia is my wife, your daughter-in-law. How could you do that to her? I'm working hard outside to earn money to support the family, and you're sleeping with my wife at home. Not only that, you two. You conspired to kill my mom. Do you know what the test results are? Advanced stage diabetes. Kidney failure. She's almost blind. You two conspired to poison my mother, turning her into a vegetable. Li Shengwang. Are you a fucking human being? I'm like a mad beast now. I raised my fist and swung it at my dad's face. He punched him hard. And Zhuang Suan. You kept me in the dark for 3 years. Zhuang Suan's biological father. I don't need to tell you, right? You two know exactly what's going on in your minds. The noise from our place woke up Zhuang Suan, who kept crying. I turned around, picked up Zhuang Suan in my hands, and raised him above my head, as if I was going to throw him to death. Sophia was so frightened that she ignored the pain in her body, and quickly grabbed my trouser leg. Minglai, don't. He's still a child. I beg you. I beg you. Please let him go. My dad was also anxious. He didn't care about his old face. He suddenly knelt down to me. Son, don't be impulsive. I am the one who let you and your mother down. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Fuck you. Don't call me son. Are you worthy of being my father? I laughed out of anger. My son, your fucking daddy is my daddy. I am not afraid of being laughed at anymore. I am the biggest joke. The neighbors ate all-you-can-eat melons. I was also stunned when I heard it. By tomorrow, everyone in town will know about what happened in my family. Sophia pulled my trouser leg and cried. I beg you, Minglai. It's all my fault. Please let him go, he's still so young. It's all my fault. I kneel down for you. After saying that, she didn't care, and just knelt down in front of me. Zhuang Suan seemed to feel something, and kept crying. I watched the scene before me. My heart is completely dead. I won't kill the child. When people are angry to the point of peaking, they will actually calm down. I put Zhuang Suan down. I took a stool, and sat down. I have called the police. They will be here soon. I took out the video and paternity test certificate in my hand. This is evidence that you two are conspiring to harm me. Actually, I came back this time to bring you to the city. I forgot to tell you that I made some money in the city and opened a company. I looked at Sophia with a half smile. I'm not working on a construction site. I'm in engineering and I'm a boss. I didn't rent the house. I bought it. I originally wanted to make money and live a good life in the city with my whole family, but now, after hearing what I said, Sophia opened her eyes wide. What did you say? You opened a company? You're the boss. You also bought a house in the city. She looked at me in disbelief, as if she doubted what I said. I don't care whether she believes it or not. He sneered. Sophia, you were supposed to have no worries about food and clothing for the rest of your life, but now you may have to spend the rest of your life in prison. 21th police are here. After understanding the situation, they took us all back to the police station. My evidence is solid. Sophia and my dad both went to jail. I paid some money for the beating, but it doesn't matter. My mother couldn't make it in the end. When I arrived at the hospital, I knew my mother didn't have much time left. If I had to say what I regret, the thing I regret most is that I didn't go home more often to see my mother. She had suffered so much. I held her hand by the bedside. Tell her I sent my dad and Sophia to jail. Reassure her. I know she can hear me. Even though she became a vegetable, she was still conscious. I held her skinny hand tightly and burst into tears. I confessed my sins at her bedside. I am an unfilial son. I saw my mother's hand move, slightly, as if she wanted to hold my hand tightly. A tear even flowed from the corner of his eye. Ultimately, her expression was peaceful. My mother passed away. 20 Toy never went back to my hometown. Continue to work on your business in the city. I have never thought about getting married or falling in love. As for Zhuang Xuan, I sent him to an orphanage for foster care. I send him child support on time every month. Although my first half of life was very rough. But I believe my future. Nothing can bring me down anymore.